Hello everyone and welcome back to the quarterfinals of the Lindores Abbey Rapid Challenge. It's the second match between Levon, Aronian and Hikaru Nakamura. Nakamura won the first one. It was actually Levon who took the lead, but then Nakamura equalized in the final game. He was able to force Armageddon and then he won in the Armageddon, if you haven't seen that game. And now the situation is the other way around. It's Nakamura who won in the previous in round 1, and this is round 4. Games 2 and 3 were drawn, and now it's Levon with the white pieces who needs a win to force an Armageddon and get back into the match. And if he's able to do that, then they will play a third match. So let's see what happens here. Levon with the white pieces opens with e4, and Nakamura goes for e5. We have knight to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to b5. So the Ruy Lopez is on the board. And Nakamura goes for his Berlin defense. So knight f6 and d3 now. Not eager to go into some early queen trading lines of the Berlin. So bishop to c5 and bishop captures on c6. So pretty much standard stuff. D captures and castles by white. And here, as your e-pawn is under attack, there are ways, different ways you could defend it, like queen e7, you can go knight d7 and f6, but Nakamura goes bishop to d6, and it is, it's not a new move, but it hasn't been played all that much. So bishop to g5 now, putting pressure on the knight here, and h6, asking do you want to capture or go back. We have bishop to h4 and now bishop to g4, and we reach a game that Alireza Firuza had against Van Gaal in the 2019 World Blitz Championship in Moscow, where h3 was played, but here Levon goes for knight b to d2, and it is already as of move 9 that we have a completely new game. So let's see how Nakamura deals with this. He goes for the immediate g5, starts his expansion on the king side, bishop g3, and now knight to h5. He goes after the light square bishop, or in some cases, depending on what plays, the knight might even come to f4. So here, knight to c4 by Levon, saying that he now wants to put pressure on Nakamura's dark square bishop, but also start his expansion on the queen side. So knight captures on g3, and now f captures on g3. A bit of an unprincipled move, since you always want to capture towards the center, but it would be a bit dangerous here, since the knight is still pinned. It's very uncomfortable for white, and you would have to worry about a lot of things. It would be easier to push for Nakamura, for example, on the king side. So instead, after knight captures on g3, we have f captures on g3, now at least opening up the f file for Levon's rook, and queen to e7. Nakamura says, I'm going to castle queenside, so what are you going to do about it? Levon starts with c3, now he's preparing b4 and a4 and so on. So castles and b4, of course. We have king to b8, a nice prophylactic move, and now not a4 but rather a3. Problem with a4 is you don't really have a good way of just pushing those pawns, because if you go all the way, black can just blockade, and if let's say f6 and maybe b5, then the problem is bishop c5. You lose control of the c5 square, and the king has to go to h1. And now after, let's say, captures, you push h5, and it's very dangerous. The king has nowhere to go. Once h4 happens, you could capture, you could open up the h file for the rook. It will be very unpleasant for white. So instead, Levon does not want to give away the control of c5, so he just strengthens the position with a3. But Nakamura just now continues pushing on the king side, as he it's castles on opposite sides, so it's of course you want to be the first one to start attacking. So h5, and now knight to e3, putting pressure on the bishop. Of course, if h4, then just bishop hangs. So bishop back to c8 by Nakamura, and now c4, preparing c5 here. And here Nakamura finds a most interesting move. It seems like c5 traps the bishop, so Nakamura plays f5, and he invites c5 to trap the bishop. Now, how do you deal with this? The problem with c5 is that while it does trap the bishop, what Nakamura had in mind is bishop captures on c5. The point is that the knight here is pinned, and after you recapture here, now you capture on e4. Of course, the pawn cannot capture due to this, and now the knight is under attack. And wherever you move the knight, it doesn't really matter. Let's say knight d2, then queen captures on c5, you put pressure on the knight here, You cannot move the knight, so you have to defend it. Let's say queen e2 or e1, not just, for example, rook captures on d3, and the knight will fall. Black will regain the piece and have a much better position. There's no way to defend the knight. If you try and add another defender, let's say something like this, then just b5 kicks it away. It's not an issue for Nakamura. So instead, after f5, we have knight captures on f5 by Levon, attacking Nakamura's queen. We have bishop captures on f5, getting rid of the threat, e captures, and now e4. So Nakamura making some progress here. However, rook to e1, putting pressure on the pawn now, and Nakamura just advances it. And with this advance, he has created a passed pawn on e3. And now what Levon should and needs to do is something like, let's say, d4 to keep an eye on the c5 square, and the position goes on. The next move you're going to play c5 and so on. However, Levon played queen to c1. He immediately went for the pawn on e3. But this doesn't work all that great, because Nakamura finds g4. He dislodges the knight from f3. We have knight to h4 and now rook h to e8. And already Nakamura's position is very, very comfortable. The passed e pawn is nicely protected, and white doesn't really have all that much to show for it. So here Levon did go for c5. But now you have bishop to e5 going for that rook, and you didn't really manage to do anything here. It would be much better, like we discussed, that the pawn was on d4. The bishop would not have this e5 square. So now the problem is, if you play something like rook to b1, just rook captures on d3, then this is just too good of a position for black, and Levon is not interested in playing this. So instead, we have queen captures on e3. Which of course now you cannot capture the rook, otherwise just queen captures on e7, and you would, we can just show it. If bishop captures, you can just capture the queen, and after rook captures, you can just capture on e7. And the problem is you don't have rook captures on d3 because of back rank issues. This just results in mate. So after queen captures on e3, of course Nakamura did not go for the rook. He played something else. But this something else also is completely winning for him. So here, in fact, the pinner becomes the pinnee. So feel free to pause the video here and try to find why this is so. Well, I give you a couple of seconds. Win the game for Nakamura. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting that, the queen and king are on a very dangerous diagonal. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, queen f6 is good. However, queen to d7 is much faster, and this is what Nakamura plays. Now, the rook is being threatened, the bishop to d4, of course, the main threat just winning the queen. And there's not much to be done here for Levon. Levon played queen to c1. He wants to offer the rook to keep the game going, but Nakamura not giving him any chances. He goes for the absolute most precise way, bishop to d4 with check. So king has to move, doesn't matter where you move the king. King h1 was played, but now first rook captures on e1 with check, queen captures, and only now bishop captures on a1. So queen has to recapture, otherwise you're just down too much material. And here queen captures on d3, and it was in this position on move 28 that Levon Aronian resigned the game, and Nakamura wins the second match as well, which means that Levon is out of the tournament, and Nakamura goes into the semifinals of the Lindores Abbey Rapid Challenge, where he will face whoever wins that match. The other match, which I will not disclose just yet, as I will show some other games. So yeah, here he resigned, as there is nothing more to be done, even though, yes, you are only down the exchange, but it's completely winning. Like, this is just the threat of checkmate, so even if white prevents that by moving the queen, let's say queen e1 or queen g1, queen c2, and there is no defense against rook d1, just wins the queen, and you are very quickly getting checkmated. So yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Ledger Crabble, Andrew Gauthier, Vijay Kumar Krishnasamy, Konstantin Conrad, and Gregory Thomas for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the Lindores Abbey Rapid Challenge, checking up on your wonderful suggestions, and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.